What's cracking, guys? Bruce Madsen here, your host of show Metric Scout Fantasy Football, and today I'm going over another mock draft. It's Todd McShay's. Just went over his wide receiver rankings yesterday, but his mock draft dropped this morning, and we have to go over it. We're going over everybody else's. We did Lance Zierlein's. We did somebody else's for ESPN. It is now Todd McShay's turn. We'll go over his mock draft, see what he's doing with these picks. Most importantly, on the mock draft, we're just going over the landing spots for our Dynasty assets. So, who's going where? Can this affect this player's long-term player value? And are we willing to continue drafting them at their current ADP where they're going at? Let me know in the comments if you're game with some of these players, or if you're going to start fading them where they're going to be at, or if it's not even feasible for these players to be drafted by some of these teams, because we're seeing that in some of these mock drafts where some of these guys are mocking these players to these teams, and it just doesn't even make sense. But you'll get that. We get that every year. But for us, we're using that as a tool, as a conversation piece to see how we can value these players with a landing spot attached to their name. With that being said, let's dig into Todd McShay's mock draft. All right, we are live and in the flesh here with Todd McShay's mock draft. We're going to just scroll on down here. Again, O-line, defense. We're going to flip past that. We're only going to talk about or discuss about the players that we're currently interested in right now. So, again, this is a defense-heavy draft. O-line's pretty heavy. It's going to be a bit here. Boom, we got one. First skill player off the board is Drake London to the Falcons. Very interesting selection here. I imagine they're expecting Calvin Ridley to be gone with his pick, which has been in debate among the media. Probably going to happen. But I'm not the guy that's going to say it is or isn't, but I'm here to speculate on this pick. Him and Pitts together is very interesting. Matt Ryan, how many years does he have left? Who are they going to bring in once he's gone? Drake London could be the alpha long-term for this team, especially with Ridley gone. Or what if Ridley stays and they add in London? I doubt that happens. That's not a real-life thing. But if you paint in broad strokes and you just want to talk about all their range of outcomes, that is a possibility with this pick. They're actually talking in the wordage here. I mean, Todd McShay is about additionally look to trade Calvin Ridley. You see that in blue there. Drake London, wide receiver 1 for Atlanta. You could see that happening, especially with the ball skills. Kyle Pitts there takes some of the heat off early on. So not a bad look, and I look for him to be a high-end prospect in rookie drafts going forward, still not losing any value. Moving on down, and we're going to be there a bit. Next is Kenny Pickett to the Commanders. I'm seeing him mocked to the Commanders a lot. And at first I didn't like it. Now I'm just so. I'm really not going to really push many chips in on him. I'll let him fall to me, and I'll take him in some spots. I'll diverse to him a little bit. But he's not a guy that I'm really going to hammer on in rookie drafts. I'm not saying I'm not going to get any shares. I'm saying that I'm not going out of my way to try to acquire him. I'm not paying up for him. And I'd rather pivot to some of the skill positions in this draft. If you went to Washington, I don't mind the spot, really. You got Terry McLaurin. You got Antonio Gibson back there. You got some weapons for him. But all in all, I'm very leery with this quarterback class. And as I've seen in a lot of those rookie mock drafts I've been in, a lot of people are too. A lot of these quarterbacks have been fading to the second round, which is unusual, really, for super flex drafts. Usually, rookie quarterbacks, high-end first-round picks, mid-round first-round picks at least. A guy who's the QB1 off the board. It's going to be very interesting to see how the consensus values him. But I'm not really going to blow my wad. I will diverse to him. I'm not going to pivot off him. I'm not going to fade him completely. But I am going to be on the lookout. Falling down the board here. Let's see who's next. Garrett Wilson to the Browns. I've seen him mocked there a few times as well. Do not love the landing spot for him. Just The quarterback situation's dicey. Let's just call it that. It's dicey. There's not many people who's going to argue against that. Offensive game plan's kind of dicey. This is an opportunity for him to step in and compete to be the RB1 early in his career, get targets early in his career, has the chance to really become a fantasy asset for you early. That the opportunity will be there, and that's something you can't ignore. I imagine he'll get faded a little bit if he goes to the Browns, which will give us a discount. And I'm willing to buy Garrett Wilson at a discount. I'm willing to dance with that talent. Do I love the landing spot? No, but I love the talent, and I'm willing to pick him up a few spots cheaper if he goes to a bad spot, and that's how you're going to have to play the game. Talent most of the time rises above situation. Not always, but most of the time. And Garrett Wilson, if he taps into his talent, going to the Browns here might not be that bad, especially if they pick things up here in the next few years. 3 years down the road, this team could be looking totally different. That's the thing about these landing spots. Things can change quick. Moving on down. Where are we going? Also, we have a trade. Steelers trading with the Chargers. They trade up to get their quarterback, Malik Willis. I actually love this for Malik. I love this as a landing spot. You have Deontay Johnson. If you're into Deontay Johnson, Malik Willis is an interesting pair for him. Chase Claypool, downfield threat. So you got your intermediate threat, who is very versatile. You also got your downfield threat, which is Chase Claypool. And you got Pat Freiermuth, the young tight end. You got Najee Harris. You got a lot of weapons for him. You got his rushing production. This is a good spot for Malik Willis. I imagine he would shoot up boards in Superflex, at least be more consistent in the top 3, top 5, 101 range. You see him fall in Superflex in some drafts. I see him fall past the 105, maybe 107, 108, 110 range, somewhere around there in some drafts. I see him go 101, all over the place. This should squash this a little bit. Should be in the 105 to 101 range among ADP. Whether you want to draft him there is a different story, but that's probably where he's going to end up going once the hype starts to build. Rolling down, Matt Corral to the Saints. Interesting landing spot here. The cap is not looking good for the Saints right now. They are mega under the cap. That may be a video in itself, just going over their cap situation here. Their skill positions are not getting any younger. Michael Thomas, a lot of people are talking him up over the offseason, but he's still an older wide receiver, and he's been hurt for a bit. Alvin Kamara is not getting any younger. This is a team that is retooling, rebuilding, and they got cap issues that's eventually going to affect them. I know a lot of the Saints fans on social media like to say that they can figure out ways to get around it, but eventually the cap's going to get you. This does not seem like the ideal situation for him. When it comes to his talent, I like him. I have him as one of the top quarterbacks in this draft, but I don't think he's all world. I don't think he's elite passer. I don't think he's like a Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields type of talent. I think he's a good talent. I think he's a good first round pick type of talent. I just don't think he's a stud quarterback prospect that you can just put him in any situation and after a few years he can turn the franchise around. I could be wrong, but there is a lot of good things in his game. His rushing production, which I like in fantasy, had over 500 rushing yards in each of his last 2 years. He can sling the ball downfield, get you those air yards. So there's a lot of good things in his profile for fantasy. However, long term, this might be bad for him because it could get dicey quick. Rolling down this draft, Treylon Burks to the Eagles. This is the head scratcher for me when I saw it. I can't see the Eagles drafting wide receiver 3 years in a row. Detroit Lions did that once. That did not go too well for them. And they got Devonta Smith last year, Jalen Reagor the year before. They do need to get a little bit more talent there, especially if they want Jalen Hurts to take a step forward. I imagine with a good free agent class, they're going to work with that more and try and build other positions on their team throughout the draft. But I could be wrong. They may go wide receiver. It could happen. Treylon Burks gives them a different dynamic, a big guy who can get downfield with a big catch radius. I could see that happening. It gives them something different from Devonta Smith, and this could allow Jalen Hurts to take a step forward in his development. Jalen Reagor's still there. I don't know if he's going to be in the plans for much longer or if he starts kicking into gear. But Treylon Burks at 19. Let me know if you're willing to draft him as a top wide receiver in this rookie draft still, if he's sharing the field with Dallas Goedert and Devonta Smith. Moving on down this draft here. And the next skilled player drafted, Chris Olave to the Raiders. I feel pretty good that he's going to be a first-round selection this year's draft. I feel good about that. Big media is mocking him there. It's been a stable in this draft class for a bit. I don't see him being a top wide receiver selection, but I see him falling in this range. The Raiders lost Henry Ruggs. Bryan Edwards hasn't been living up to the hype. Chris Olave could assert himself, maybe be a field stretcher, but be more of a versatile piece in the offense, working out a slot, a little bit outside. Could help them a lot. Hunter Renfrow has had a big season, but just adding more weapons to the offense will just help the passing game no matter what. Darren Waller's had some injuries. He's not a young guy. Father Time's eventually going to set in on him. So getting more talent at the wide receiver spot's never a bad thing. Moving on down. Jameson Williams here to the Bucks at 27. I like this pick. Chris Godwin's more than likely gone in free agency. They need to get another wide receiver there to get on the opposite side of Mike Williams. New quarterback. Of course, Tom Brady's gone, so it's hard to tell who's going to be throwing the passes there. But this is a good spot for him. He's going to have Mike Williams take off a lot of the load for him to develop there. He can stretch the field. I imagine they're going to get somebody that can complement Mike Evans since he's the veteran. And the skill set of him and Mike Evans, it's not similar, but they both can get downfield. And if you got a quarterback that is complementing Mike Evans' skills, then it could complement Jameson Williams' skills as well, because he's a 4-3 guy and can stretch the field. With that being said, I like Jameson Williams in rookie drafts. I would pull the trigger on him in the first round still if he went to Tampa. Moving on down. This might be it for us. Jahan Dotson to the Chiefs. We would see him experience a major bump in value here. Anybody to the Chiefs, they're talking Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Dotson would probably be the Clyde Edwards-Helaire of this receiver group if he went to the Chiefs. The thing about him, he can work over the middle a bit while the other receivers stretch the field. Travis Kelce working over the middle. This could be a good marriage between him, Tyreek Hill, and company. This could be a good opportunity. Cerebral route runner, sticky hands. Him to the Chiefs. Going to be a lock in the first round in fantasy drafts this year. Going to be a lock in rookie drafts because he's a Chief. Everybody's going to want that. And we saw how crazy things got with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I'm not saying he's going to be one-on-one because that's not going to happen. He's not going to get up there. But he's going to get pumped up higher than expected. People are going to be talking him up. When that happens, that's when the price is probably going to be too hefty for me. But I'm still interested in him. I just don't want that price tag. Moving on down here. And that should be it. Nope. Lions get their quarterback, Sam Howell. Interesting selection here. You got Amon-Ra St. Brown, DeAndre Swift, Hawkinson. So not a bad group for a young quarterback, and I imagine they'll be looking to get other wide receivers. Free agency is a good opportunity for that. Howell going to Detroit, that might be a good situation for him. He's mobile, so playing in the dome, playing inside could benefit him. He's got some weapons there to choose from. The mobility is what I like most about him, and the fact that he's falling late in the first round here, which I imagine there's a good possibility that someone holds Detroit over a barrel to make them trade up to get their guy, or they trade up to maybe try to get a Malik Willis or something. But really, Sam Howell here to Detroit, when we just put this pick in a phone booth here, isn't too bad. And I imagine he'd fall in drafts a little bit, even in Superflex. He's falling in Superflex anyways, the back half of the first round. A lot of times, I imagine this pick isn't going to do much to boost up his value. So I imagine you can get him at a discount, which I'm fine with. I'm fine with drafting the cheaper quarterbacks because the risk is minimal. But that's it for Todd McShay's mock draft here. Let me know what you think. Let me know who you're drafting off this, who you're fading. Chris Olave, I didn't really go over what I was thinking about for Chris Olave. Let's go over him real quick. I did not go over what I thought from a Dynasty perspective. I think there's a chance he could be effective in fantasy. However, I think from a target share standpoint, I think Hunter Renfrow has earned a portion of his share. I think as long as Darren Waller's healthy, he's going to earn his share. He's going to always have that. I think this team will continue to try and bring in wide receivers. Like if Bryan Edwards still continues the flop, then they're probably going to try and get a bigger guy on the outside. I think Chris Olave is a good versatile piece for the offense. He could transition to enough workload to be fantasy relevant, but I think the upside will be capped in fantasy here. I think he's a good wide receiver. I think he's a very good route runner. I think he's good enough to be productive. I think he's good enough in fantasy. First round rookie pick, I'm not sold on that. I'd probably feel better getting him in the second round, which I'm fine with. First round would feel a little high for me considering where he's at in this landing spot. But that's it for this mock draft. Todd McShay's, I think his 1.0 of this year, whatever it is, maybe 2.0, maybe it's a second. But that's it. Just dropped the day. We just covered it. Let me know who you like from this mock, who you're drafting, who you're pulling up in your rookie drafts, who you're fading, and everything else in the comments. Make sure you pound that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe on the way out. Every subscription matters. It fuels me to keep covering this content. Fuels me to keep going over tape, the metrics, the mock drafts, and everything else. But again, I want to thank you, and I'll catch you next time.